Hello and welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express papers Chandigarh edition. The topics that we are covering are mentioned over here, and I have made short comments about their degree of importance, if it is relevant for prelims, mains. So it basically tells us as to what should be a focus, a priority that we should give from exam point of view. Now moving on to the news. So first news that we get is that the new parliament building will be operational. First session will take place today. Fine. So that was the first news. And in this special session, it is expected that women's reservation bill will be taken up. So earlier we discussed that the representation of women in parliament as well as the state legislative assemblies. I would rather put it legislative assemblies only. It is very, very low. In the 17th Lok Sabha, it is around 14%, while in the state legislative assemblies, it varies, of course, according to the states. So it is around 3% in some states it is 10-11%. So it is very, very less. Given that the population of women is half, so why such little representation is there? Obviously, there is some sort of a bias. Maybe the political parties are not giving enough tickets to the women. So the Women's Reservation Bill, which says it is expected that it will make a case for 33% reservation for it will reserve 33% of the seats for women in parliament and legislative assemblies. So 33% would be reserved for women. So by default, now at least 33% representation of women would be there in these two. Fine. This is all we have at the moment. The modalities, etc., are not really discussed. Now, let's take it up. Let's analyze this issue over here. Not the bill, but the issue. So the issue number one that comes to mind is, what are the perceived benefits of bringing in women's reservation bill? So perceived benefit is, of course, that representation of women will increase in the parliament as well as the legislative assemblies at the state level. So this will increase. So that, of course, is a very obvious point. But why do we want to increase the representation? Why do we want more representation of women in parliament and the legislative assemblies? That is the point that I want to just take it up. So basic thing is that we want more women in the position of leadership. People in parliament, in legislative assembly, they are making laws for the country. They are in a position of leadership. They may be ministers, or they will be simple MPs or MLAs, right? So they may be part of the governance framework. They may be playing a role in holding the government accountable. They may take up issues that concern the society, they concern the women. So women in position of leadership obviously improves the position of women overall in the society. And that is the biggest point. In fact, when we talk about women empowerment, it is said that there are 3 L's. 3 L's of women empowerment: learning, labor, leadership. So this is the third L. Okay, so that is the main thing. It will bring in a gender perspective in governance. So that is very, very important. There are so many crimes, so many things that happen. The politicians at times stay quiet on those things. Maybe a woman perspective may change that. Okay, next. What are the impediments? What are the reasons why we find poor representation of women in politics as a whole? What are the reasons? They constitute about, of course, 50% of the population. Why is their representation less? Now for this, I shared early in the morning this article with you. I want you to read it right? So this is from the EY, the World Bank. And particularly this part over here, the background information, says more than half of the world's population is female, but only 21%. This is, of course, not in India's case. So here you can put the relevant fact. Overall issues still remain the same. And this next paragraph tells us about the issues that the women face. Right? Access to power, familial, communal, economic linkages. So that is not there. Gender-defined roles. So women do not fit in the traditional gender-defined roles, the patriarchal society that we live in. So politics doesn't fit in that, in the traditional mindset. Okay, so basically you can do this, you can read this, you get important pointers, you have a structured answer for your mains paper. So this you can do yourself. Okay, so that's it. Now another thing. In mains 2019, there was a question asked, and this somehow can be linked to this issue. This question was concerning the local self-government. So in the panchayati institutions, or even in the urban local bodies, there is at least 33% reservation for women. Some states have 50% reservation for women. So the question that was asked in the mains is, the reservation of seats for women in the institutions of local self-government has had a limited impact on the patriarchal character of the Indian political process. Right. So this topic has been taken up by the UPSC previously. So we can maybe somehow link that, if what changes can the women reservation bill bring in. Okay, so that's done. Moving on, the next topic. Okay, in the next article is saying, as earlier, bipartisan support was there for women's reservation bill. Bipartisan is basically a word associated with politics, which means that both, the ruling party as well as the opposition, both agree, or there is a consensus. So bipartisan basically is associated with that. So all stakeholders are on consensus. Next. Another mains perspective. In a recent mains exam, there was a question asked about trends in politics. That's part of your GS2 also. And there is a recent trend in politics, that is, gender issues are being picked up, or we can say gender politics is taking place. So Swachh Bharat, okay. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, 33% quota, women's reservation. Ujjwala Yojana for LPG connection. Who's the beneficiaries? Women. Triple Talaq. So BJP has picked up this women-specific issues. Okay, so that is one thing. Then we also see regional parties like this Bihar JDU party. They are the ruling party. So they are actively talking about prohibition. That is, prohibition means alcohol. So alcohol is prohibited over there. This is again an issue that is very close to the heart of the women. So we see that women issues are being taken up by various political parties. They are more receptive to the concerns of the women. So this is a trend that is going on. So gender politics. So this is something that we can look into, this issue also. And one of the reasons could be that there is a rise in women voters. So women voters have actually increased. It's increased more than the male. So it is 67.2%. The voter turnout of women are increasing. Back then it was not there, but as it is increasing, we see more emphasis on gender politics. And male, it is 67%. Okay. There is one more article that will come concerning the women's reservation bill. There will cover the topic of horizontal and vertical reservation. Okay, next news, city news. So it says 52 cops posted at police lines, fine. Clear backlog. Backlog should over here mean that about postings and transfers. Now, what I feel we should look at it from mains point of view, that there is an issue of police, there is an issue of postings. Why don't we prepare police reforms? the need for police reforms, the various issues that police have, and what remedial measures should be taken up. It can easily be found on the PRS website. Right, so that we can prepare some other time. So, but this issue is there. Next, UT Police aims to prepare 1200 volunteers. Okay, 1200 volunteers. First question is, why is police doing this? The next question is, what is the police doing to bring up these 1200 volunteers? And this is very, very similar to the concept of community policing. These things can be easily asked in the governance section of GS2. Some initiatives of the states can be asked in the pre-paper also, prelims. Okay, so let's cover the first thing. UT Police aims to prepare 1200 voters. Why are they wanting to do so? So these volunteers, of course, police is limited in staff, right? They have limited resources, limited means. So why not have volunteers? Volunteers, they are coming by their own initiative. They may not be paid also. So why not engage volunteers who are willing citizens who want to work with the government, right? So on those issues. So engage volunteers. Plus volunteers are scattered across, so they can be the eyes and ears of the police. They can help support the police in their functions. Police can thereby do their core functions. Right, so that is why they are doing this. And this is similar to the concept of community policing. So I have already shared this link with you from this Drishti website. So this is about community policing. And Delhi Police has this program known as Program Ummeed. Benefits, no government funds are required. Okay, so these are the things. Then examples are mentioned over here, right? So examples, the various states and the initiatives, all of it is covered over here. I think you should prepare a short note of this thing. First, I think it should be GS3 internal security. Now, what is the police, UT Police doing in this regard? So UT Police is coming up with the idea of student police cadet program. So they will enroll volunteers under this program. In this, they will be provided some academic training concerning with law and order policing. So curriculum has been designed for this purpose. Plus they will be engaged in some indoor activities. Right, once they pass, they will work as volunteers as a student police cadet. This article is there about trans fats. So if asked in mains, it will be GS3, Science and Tech, Health. So GS3, this topic is covered. Now, overall, I was reading it because I feel this is important. As citizens, we should know it is concerning our health. Okay. So yeah. So I've shortened this entire thing over here. So what are these? So there's this trans fats, which is seen as one of the reasons for coronary diseases, right? Heart attacks, etc. So they are responsible for this blockage of arteries and everything. Okay. Now these trans fats are available naturally as well as artificially. The ones that are available naturally, so these can be found in milk, butter, right? So dairy products, it can be found. Now these trans fats are there in small quantities. In fact, trans fats are also known as unsaturated fats. So these are found in small quantities, and according to doctors and WHO, etc., these are deemed not harmful. While there is from artificial sources, by the way, definition of trans fats is given over here. So from artificial sources, this is bad. So this fat is coming, this trans fat is created artificially by means of partially hydrogenating oils. Vanaspati is one of the examples, and it is one of the worst source for trans fats. It may be also available in the form of mono and diglycerides or of fatty acids. So from there also it may be provided. This is very harmful. and this should be strictly limited. So if you're consuming fat, only 2 grams out of 100 grams can be trans fats. Otherwise, there is a solid, big chance of you developing heart diseases, diabetes, insulin resistance, all the bad things. Okay. And according to the experts, then in terms of energy intake, it should be 2 grams per day with a 2000 calorie diet. So the normal diet that we have, it should be only 2.2 grams of trans fat shall be consumed, maximum. And they say even if we reduce our trans fat consumption by 2%, we can reduce the chances of fatal heart attacks by 30%. So this is there, right? Okay. I post these things on Instagram also. So I take these screenshots and post it over there. It helps me also. Sometimes I want to refer it. So it is available at a single place. I don't have to worry about the data storage. That is the main reason actually. Okay. Yeah, Himachal Pradesh is having the monsoon session. Seems to be a bit late for monsoon session. Okay. No proposal, this article, no proposal for minimum support price for cocoons. What are cocoons? Cocoons are made from the lava. This is cocoons. And from this we get the silk. Right, so this is for the silk. So no proposal for a minimum support price for cocoons. Okay. Now I'll give you a homework. The types of silk available in India. Right. So maybe from prelims, I'm telling you, it's covered in one of the NCRTs also as a table exercise. So you do this. Okay. Some information leak has taken place in the Western Command about the possibility of a warlike scenario. What will be the strategy of India? So so that's it. A school sets example for state to follow. Okay, so briefly I'm covering this issue. Maybe this issue, can be a case study which can be replicated. So the subject of education can be asked in your GS2, governance, and so in that sense it can be asked. In fact, when we talk about education, just digressing a bit, when we talk about education, we have these schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, right? So basically the focus is on universalization of education, that providing access to education to all the sections of the population, universalization of education. But hardly ever we are talking about the quality of education. So this is a theme that is being discussed from a long time, and we do expect a question in mains sometime. International agencies like UNICEF, etc., are also discussing about this dilemma. Government is also working on this issue. Okay, so that issue done. Now let's move to this. A school sets example for state to follow. Okay, so it's very simple. There is a border state. Punjab is of course borders. So there is a border village in which there is this school. It is, and there are a lot of these schools in any of these states, any state. These schools are available in these rural areas where connectivity is not there. And if connectivity is there, it is very expensive to go to the school. For the parents, it is difficult to afford, or they have to take an auto or something. So here, the education board decided that they will provide this bus service that too free of cost. So with this, what has happened is the parents are finding it affordable and they are going to the school. The children are going to the school. It's becoming easy to send the children to the school. So much so that from other areas also, outside of the village area, district also, the children are enrolling in the school because this bus facility is there. So this is one of the ways of improving access to education, plus improving the dropout rates, that is children leaving out of the school. So that is one of the ways, good ways. Besides, what is being done by the Punjab government is improving the school infrastructure in terms of having air conditioners in school, smart classrooms fitted with modern learning aids, projectors, dining facilities for midday meal. So those are again some initiatives to bring in better attendance at school. So if this, obviously this project is doing well, so this may be replicated in other government schools as well. Next, survey for high-speed railway corridor between Delhi and Amritsar. Okay, that's fine. Right, so high-speed rail will take place between these two regions. So this is highly regional news, but this is a case study in hiding. Here, what we get to know that, okay, there is a bullet train that is coming up, high-speed train, and for this, land has to be acquired. So about 365 villages will be affected, 55 feet wide land has to be acquired. Now, naturally, the villages will have to, people, there are villagers who will have to shed, part with their land. They have to give this land to the government so that the rail corridor will come up. So it is going to affect the people. So what is the approach that the government must have? So that is the theme. Okay. So here what is being done is a research agency has been called IIM Research. So they are doing a socio-economic survey. Socio-economic survey. By the way, we already have a term known as social impact assessment. So any government project that is coming up, any project, we should do a social impact assessment. That is how the project is going to affect the society. And this also includes the environment impact assessment, because if environment is affected, it affects the society as well. So how it is affecting, what can be done to mitigate the effect. So all those things will be better known. So social impact assessment is being done. The survey is being done to know the grievances and the issue of the people. Soil testing is being done. Some people are saying that we cannot part with the land because it is providing us regular income. It is bread and butter for them. So all these issues are coming up. So it may make it easy for tomorrow negotiation or mitigate the impact. So that is the main point. Now we can also look at this news. Imagine this land has to be acquired. You are the person who's made in charge of land acquisition, and you are tasked with this to negotiate. The people are unwilling to give land. So what would be your approach? What would be the course of action, or what are the options available with you? State merits and demerits. So these are the governance issues which are it's an ethical dilemma also. So this can be taken up in your GS4 paper. So just okay. So again, women's reservation bill is there. Again, we are discussing it. Okay. So by now we know that the women's reservation bill will provide for 33% reservation of women. It's that we know. But how will this reservation be given? In fact, all parties were in favor previously also, but the disagreement was on the basis of modality. Okay. So one way of giving reservation could be that there is already general category, there is reservation for scheduled caste, and in places where there are scheduled tribes, so there is reservation for this. And yeah, so there can be reservation for women, right? So that is one approach that we can have, that reservation for women is given. Fine. So there is general category, SC category, ST if applicable, and of course women. So that is one way of giving reservation. Other way of reservation could be, so this is vertical reservation, by the way, segregating the population vertically by drawing these lines, or it could be giving reservation to women in totality. So 1/3 of the seats in general category, 1/3 of the seats for SC, 1/3 for the ST are reserved for the women. So this is an example of horizontal reservation. This cuts across the vertical components. Fine. This is vertical while this is horizontal. Okay. And that's the concept that I wanted to discuss. And this was one of the reasons for disagreement. Actually, this is what it is being discussed. There were multiple issues back then because of which there was disagreement. Okay, so this is one issue. Now, These RJD party, Janata Dal United, Samajwadi Party, they had a problem with this reservation. They said previously that women in OBC should be given reservation. Reservation should for women in OBC should be given. So that they were saying. Now the problem arose that there is no reservation for OBC for MPs and for in the parliament or the state legislative assemblies. So that would mean that creating a new category for providing reservation for the OBCs. So that was not acceptable. That was not agreeable. So that was one issue. Second thing that was discussed previously, that reservation should be given for a period of 15 years, 15 years. And after that, it may cease to, after that we may review, or it may cease to come into effect, because by now, there is good reservation of women for 3 sessions. So maybe now we do not need the make it permanent feature of reservation. So that is one thing. Then rotation policy. So rotation policy would mean, like presently we have reservation for scheduled caste, that is on basis of rotation policy. Rotation policy means that certain constituency is having this SC reservation. Now next cycle it will not have reservation for SC, some other constituency will have reservation for the scheduled caste cycle. So how should we have a rotation policy for women? Of course we would have to have something like this. Second, this thing was, one of the suggestions that was given was that each constituency may have 2 members, one male, one woman. So that was proposed. But the committee that proposed, Natarajan committee, which proposed for a double membership constituencies, they themselves disagreed later, because it said that in this, women may be reduced to subservient status, a junior status as compared to the male counterpart. Okay. So yeah, a number of contentious issues are there. Let it come, then we will discuss it. This requires separate analysis altogether. Okay. Misgivings crop up as India bloc works on details. It was expected, right? So India bloc is the opposition bloc. They say that we will be contesting against the BJP party, and they are contesting together because they don't want to lose out on the splitting of the votes. So they have disagreement on number of issues about boycott of the TV anchors, which are deemed as pro BJP. That is one of the issues. So Nitish Kumar, the Chief Minister of Bihar, has an issue with this. Then the Communist Party say that we cannot ally with the TMC party in Bengal, because in Bengal, TMC and the left party are very bad opponents, very, very bad negative competition is there politically speaking. Okay. Then the Sanatan Dharm controversy that took place. So DMK is one of the members. So Udyanidhi, the minister over there, made a statement that Sanatan Dharm shall may be eradicated. So this, of course, cannot be acceptable. But if they take a strong stance, then DMK shall come out, and DMK is a very important stakeholder. Plus the issue of seat sharing. So that is again a problem, that how many seats will go to a particular political party. So that is again an issue between the group. Karnataka's Hoysala temple on UNESCO World Heritage list. So it will be the 42nd UNESCO World Heritage site. And the 41st was covered yesterday, Shantiniketan. Right. So 42nd World Heritage site. Now Hoysala temples, if we say, it is of course built by the Hoysala dynasty, and this was in 12th and 13th century. These temples are dedicated to Lord Shiva and Vishnu. So Hoysala temples, that means there are more temples. So there are 3 temples: Chennakeshwa temple, Belur. So the main temple in the complex at Belur. Then Hoysaleshwar temple, right? So and Keshava temple. So there are these 3 temples: this, and this. Now we come to the editorial opinion section. Okay. A topic of interest. This is concerning the EPFO, Employee Provident Fund Organization. A question was asked as to which ministry is responsible for the EPFO. So this is Ministry of Labor. And this manages the Provident Fund, right? So the employees are compulsory, employee as well as the employers, they're compulsorily required to make put part of their salary into the PF account. And this PF is managed by the EPFO. Now, the basic thing is that this EPFO is offering a higher rate of interest. They are recommended 8.5% as against what is available in the market. So the government securities, for instance, they are providing 6.23%, whereas the SBI was offering 5.4%. So they are providing much more higher rate of interest. So from where is this money coming up, right? Because PF would be this money that is invested would further be invested elsewhere to give return to the people who have invested, right? So that is how things function. Okay. So from where is this money coming? Are they paying from their own pocket? So it's expected, it is believed that there is increasing allocation towards equity, and equity markets are risky. So is it risking the money that the people have invested? So that is the moot point of this article, right? So what they're basically saying is that risk reward should be considered by the EPFO. By the way, the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Labor are in disagreement over this high rate of interest, higher interest over the government securities that is being given. Next is China's democracy question. China democracy question need not be there altogether. Okay. So basically this author goes to China. He goes to the city known as Hangzhou. And there they were discussing about the politics and the democracy. And China claims to be a democracy. In fact, democracy, the term, is seen as a great currency of international respect in modern times. So China calls itself a democracy, but there is a single party, which is the Communist Party. No question of elections or anything of that sort. So it's not really a democracy, but is it required to have elections to be a democracy, right? Can we imagine a non-electoral way of democracy? And this is the thing that triggered, like, what are the other constituents of democracy? So my focus over here is this. Okay. Now, if you remember, when the starting of the news analysis, I have mentioned CSAT. So I want you to, read this article in any ways. You can find from its heading. I feel such articles, if you just crop certain part from front and end, it will be a good CSAT passage. And this passage will test your understanding about the various terms associated with democracy. So I think in that sense, I wanted to cover this. I was saying it is CSAT. Okay. Now, is there a non-electoral way of imagining democracy? I don't think so. Because the very essence is that you're not happy with the government, or people who are governing you can change them. But yes, there are non-electoral constituents of democracy, definitely. So one constituent is, of course, elections. Election is the biggest festival of a democracy. But there are other things also. Election is not the only thing. Citizens' participation, citizen engagement on various issues. Government brings up this something and you're not happy with it, you raise that issue. So there should be a space for participation, for criticism, critique. This should be a continuous effort. In fact, elections is once in 5 years, but participation is something that happens on a regular basis. So participation actually defines the health of a democracy. And for participation to take place, there has to be transparency or openness. We should know, okay, fine, what is the unemployment data? What is the rate of farmer suicides? That's when we can say, okay, fine, there's something wrong with the government. That's why we have the RTI, Right to Information Act. Right, so transparency, role of media can come up over here. Okay. And at the end, it is accountability. Participation is, of course, for holding the government accountable. So this is not to do with elections, non-electoral way. Okay. Next, democracy has to have rule of law. Has to have rule of law. You have to abide by that. In the absence of rule of law, it's not democracy, it is mobocracy. Whatever the majority wants, they can do, right? And rule of law puts the limits on that. And rule of law would mean that all sections of the population are equal. Everybody shall be treated equally. The government functions according to the limits set by the law. And rule of law also implies policing, because in the absence of policing and law and order situation, democracy or any government cannot sustain. It is anarchy. Democracy becomes anarchy. Okay, so these are the points. So is there a non-electoral way of imagining democracy? No, but definitely there are non-electoral consequences of a democracy. Next is this about Shanti Niketan. I would want you to, because Shanti Niketan got this UNESCO heritage status, I want you to read separately from Wikipedia or any other place, right? So about Shanti Niketan, about Vishwa Bharati, the university created by Rabindranath Tagore. Next, a win-win for all. I think I have shared this. I want you to read about PM Bani, go visit their website, right? So basic, you should know. I have explained this, I've simplified this about the PM Vani. So this is R.S. Sharma, who was the former chairperson of the TRI. And he's saying that like Unified Payment Interface, UPI, PM Vani, which is Wi-Fi Access Network Interface, has potential to transform India's digital public infrastructure. So obviously when we analyze such a thing, the first thing is, what is PM Vani? So that is, of course, one of this, there's the full form of this thing, and what is the functioning of the PM Vani? And second thing is, how is it transforming India's digital public infrastructure? Okay, so PM Vani is basically public Wi-Fi hotspots. Simple. You go to any place, you should be able to get Wi-Fi. Nowadays, we have these cellular connections, cellular connections. So the telecom company says there is no need for such a thing. But we know, and the author also says that when we go outside, there are many places we do not get internet, and the speed of the internet shall not be good. So there is definitely a case for having public Wi-Fi hotspots, which will provide high quality, high speed internet access at an affordable price. I missed that point, right? So affordable price. And this shall help bridge a digital divide. So I've covered transform India's digital public infrastructure over here. Now, what is the model of PM Vani? So PM Vani says, according to this, it says that, anybody can establish a Wi-Fi hotspot, anybody. So anybody, maybe a youth in a village area or anybody, we already have this optical fibers, etc. So people can come up, they can say that according to this PM Vani guidelines, they can set up their own Wi-Fi hotspot areas. So they can create this. Simple. So anybody can do it. It could be the village youth, it could be somebody who's selling something on the marketplace, anything. So small business, any or an entrepreneur, anybody. So they shall be known as Public Digital Office, PDO. So they shall be known as the PDOs. So they are basically providing you access to Wi-Fi hotspots. Okay. And their arrangement, their setup has to be in accordance with the PM Vani guidelines. Okay, so they are there, simple. But somebody has to aggregate them. Somebody has to consolidate them. So we have PDO aggregators. So this is aggregators. So aggregator is something like Ola, Uber. So somebody wants to provide a service, they can register with them. They will provide the gateway for anybody to access internet, etc. So that's what happens in Uber Ola also. The aggregator, Uber Ola, you make a payment there. This money is then transferred to them. So something like this should be there. Okay, so the consumer reaches the PDOA. PDOA then gets you access to these, and you get the internet. So that is the PM Bani scheme. So you're getting this optical cable internet. So this will help all these benefits over here. As of now, there are about 1.5 lakh Wi-Fi hotspots installed by PDOAs, and internet as cheap as rupees 5 to 10. Okay, so I want you to prepare a short note on this thing. Who knows if something very specific or like this has been asked, right? So GS3. GS2 also, maybe GS3 digital infrastructure. Okay, international section now. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Corridor to a new world. India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor. Europe Economic Corridor. So this corridor that was recently proposed at the G20 summit. This is there. I don't think you should read this much. It's just that what would be the perceived benefits of the IMEC corridor. That's all. That is something that you should prepare. This will be GS2 international relations. Okay, international news. This we can go fast. US-Iran exchange prisoners end deal involving transfer of $6 billion to Tehran. Okay, so prisoner swap deal. It is also said that Iran is engaging in hostage diplomacy. It is arresting people, and then, the US has frozen their economic assets, financial assets. So they are trying to get those concessions. Okay. So that was the basic thing as to what Iran has got. So one thing we know, okay, fine this. But have they got any other concessions besides this? That is the main thing. For example, is there any progress? If they have some sort of an agreement over here, deal about prisoner exchange, is there a possibility of progress on the Iran's nuclear program, or support for regional Shia militias by the US, so that they will be silent on that issue? So those things are possibly they are discussing. China's foreign minister Wang in Russia for security talks after meeting Sullivan in Malta. It's very simple. China's NSA met the US NSA. Sorry, China's foreign minister NSA, basically the same thing. So they met with the US counterpart. Fine. US, this Ukraine war is going on, Russia war. So China is now talking with Russia. Simple. So Wang in Russia for security talks after these talks have taken place. Maybe China is playing the role of a mediator. Who knows what is happening? Okay. So this US meeting had taken place in Malta. Malta is a country in southern Europe. Coming to the economy section, stabilizing core inflation shows ease in pricing pressures across economy. So when we talk inflation, just the term inflation over here. So we heard previously that the CPI inflation is at 6.83%. So this is known actually the headline inflation, the inflation that we basically talk, or which is on the head. So headline inflation, the front thing. This includes some items which are volatile and some items which are non-volatile. So volatile items could be vegetable prices. So they're seasonal. Sometimes they price increase, sometimes it decreases. Now policy decisions cannot be taken on these grounds. So if we just take into account non-volatile items, then we get core inflation. So the core inflation is at 4.9%. If we add volatile items, then it is 6.83%. So the core inflation is stabilizing. So that is the main thing. And besides appreciation that the good things are happening, India is better than, this is an RBI paper actually. So India is doing better than other countries where there is darkening of global prospects in other countries. India is in a bright spot. There is an uptick in shopping in clothing and lifestyle retailers' income. So things are good. By 2027, we'll be the third largest economy. So all that. Okay. Next news. IRDAI, the statutory body responsible for regulating the insurance sector. So it plans to create Bima Sugam platform. Bima insurance, Sugam making easy platform, Bima Sugam platform. And for this purpose, they want to appoint a project consultant, a committee as well as a project consultant as to how this Bima Sugam platform should come into place. Now, what is the proposed Bima Sugam platform? It's basically a platform where there'll be agents, brokers, banks, etc., which are providing insurance services, and customers can take insurance from the Bima Sugam platform. It will be a trusted entity because it is government managed. This news, generative AI to enhance creativity, automate routine tasks. So basic thing is GS3 economy, science and tech also, generative AI. I want you to prepare from mains point of view. Some pointers we are getting, but more can be studied, right? More needs to be done. So this information, that whatever information we have, it is coming from the World Economic Framework. It's not a government entity. It's based out of Davos, DAVOS, Switzerland. So they are saying that we need to have an adaptable workforce because generative AI is going to take up jobs, especially those jobs which are routine and have repetitive language. But jobs which are having high degree of personal interaction, which requires a human touch, which requires physical movement, they will be least affected. So that is one thing that is covered. So how is generative AI going to affect us from economy point of view? We can always talk about generative AI and ethics. So that will be applied ethics, GS4, right? So that is always there. Now, besides this, there is also a mention of large language models. So what are these large language models? So that can also be prepared for GS3. So it's basically says this model could be a boon for jobs that require critical thinking and complex problem solving skills. So this will help with this. Okay. It could benefit workers with productivity and routine tasks. So this may also help create new roles, which also